Good Wednesday evening, Chicago. Welcome on back to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am Adam Karnick, your host. We are going to have a lot to talk about tonight. The Bulls and the 76ers just wrapped up less than an hour ago. The Bulls dropped one tonight in Philly. We will do some post-game on that. The Bulls are off to a fantastic start, though. Even though they lost tonight, there are still great things happen out at United Center with this Bulls team. There's a lot to be excited about with these guys. We will be diving into that. Also, yesterday, the trade deadline came and went in the NFL. Nothing of substance at all happened with the Bears. Very little substance happened in the NFL at all yesterday. But that's normal. That's typical for the NFL trade deadline. But we'll take a look at the Bears, talk about the game they had against the Niners this past weekend. A mixed bag there with that game, but lots to talk about. And then finally, yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of a very, very, very special night in Chicago. Heck, in the history of American sports, we will talk about that. All that and more coming up tonight. Buckle on up. This is Chi-Town Weekly. And welcome on back to another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Episode 62, if my math is correct there. Man, it feels like it was just a couple months ago I started doing this show. Where does all the time go? So we're going to start off tonight. The Bulls dropped one tonight in Philly, just their second loss of the season, 103-98. But they looked good in the loss. So lots of good things to be talking about there with the Bulls. Even in a loss, things can still look good. Things to work on, obviously, but man, it's cool having a good professional basketball team in town in Chicago again. It's been too long, so that's where we're going to start the show tonight. But of course, before we get into that, we've got to talk about our sponsors here at IE Sports Radio, starting with the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The Warriors dropped their final regular season game over the weekend, 32-26 to the Mercury. They finished 4-6. However, they still qualified for the playoffs. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Find them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, or Facebook Southern California Warriors. And Background Check International Business. Are you looking to background check a new hire? Let Kit Fremen take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes, such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. Go to their website, bcint.com, or find them on Facebook, Background Check International-BCI. And IE Sports Radio is available on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all by searching IE Sports Radio. This show is available on Twitter as well, at IESRC. I am on Twitter, at Adam_Karnick. So if you want to follow along and have fun there doing that, I am all for it. And if you are listening live here tonight on Spreaker, please hop on into the chat. It's free. There's no cost. They don't bombard you with a bazillion emails. You're good to go. And we can have some fun that way. Taryn is in there. Good evening, Taryn. And Mike Hendrickson is in tonight. Hey, Mike. Thank you guys for being here. And Taryn laughs. He's done over 110 episodes of Set Point. So I aspire to have that many episodes someday, Taryn. You are definitely well ahead of me there on that. I hope to catch up to you there on that someday. All right, so let's start off with the Bulls. 103-98, Philly the win. The Bulls led just once in the game. They scored the very first basket. After that, it was all Philly the rest of the way. At the same time, Philly led by as many as 18 at one point in this game before the Bulls came back, made it close, obviously only lost by 5. They got as close as 89-87 and 92-89. So they got very close in the third and fourth quarter, made things tight. The problem offensively for the Bulls tonight, three-point shooting. Just 6 of 21 from behind the arc, especially with where this team has started shooting the ball from 3 early. That leads to having issues overall. They also gave up almost 50% to Philly from the field tonight. The 76ers, 49.4% from the field, including just under 43% from three-point land. 12 of 28 were the 76ers. For the Bulls, leading scorers tonight, DeMar DeRozan, again, he is having an outstanding start to his Bulls career. A double-double for him tonight, 37 points, 10 rebounds, 1 assist. 13 of 22 shooting in 36 minutes. Oh, Terrence asking how Alex Caruso tonight offensively came off the bench, 6 points, 6 assists. Did have 4 fouls, so got into some foul trouble there. Caruso's energy off the bench has been big for the Bulls here early in this season. He's brought some defensive spark for the team too. Just being that sixth man, you need that guy who can come off the bench and bring energy, bring a spark, bring intensity. And Caruso has been that early on so far this season for the Bulls. So Caruso has fit in very nicely. He's been a very nice role player so far for the Bulls in this very early season. You know, we're just 8 games in. This coming on the heels of Monday night. So they almost came back from being 18 down tonight, and that's on the heels of coming back from being 19 down to the Celtics on Monday night to win 128-114 out in Boston. I was teasing Brandon. He was just on with Titus Sports in Boston right before us tonight. I was teasing him during the week and right before his show that Boston was very gracious hosts to the Bulls while they were in town on Monday night. Very nicely gave up a 19-point lead so that the Bulls could win. The Bulls' defense to start the season has been a surprise. One of the things with the Bulls overall, the NBA overall, the past, since the Bulls have been good, were last good, there's been such a change, of course, in the way the NBA is played, and we understand shot efficiency better and the value of threes and the mid-range game kind of disappearing. You're seeing higher scoring games overall. The Bulls' defense has still been very good overall. For example, held Boston to just 11 points total in the fourth quarter in that game Monday night. And then tonight held Philly to just 103 points, 19 points in the fourth quarter. They're finishing games defensively. They're being in it the whole way. Seth Curry was just a little too much for the Bulls tonight. He finished with, I had his number here, sorry. He led the 76ers with 22 points tonight, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He was 9 of 14, and he hit a dagger of a jumper late in the game that sealed the deal for the 76ers. Oh, Mike's asking about the new city jerseys. I saw that the NBA had released those. I hadn't looked specifically at the Bulls ones. Let's see. Let me pull it up here. I know Mike is very much a jersey guy. Oh, yeah, those two look sharp. Yeah, those new ones. Yeah, it's kind of that late 80s Bulls jerseys you're talking with the Chicago script in there. And it's a good color. Yeah, it's a good focusing on the red as opposed to last year they had the black with the nets coming down to the side. This is, it's a very classic retro look. Yeah, those are sharp looking. Those are, yeah. I do not have any NBA jerseys. I've got a few different jerseys in my collection. Of course, I've got a bazillion Bears jerseys. I've got one Cubs jersey and one Blackhawks sweater. I don't have any Bulls jerseys. I've got some Bulls shirts and hats and things like that. But that's a sharp-looking jersey. That's nice looking. That's good. But, the 76ers tonight, Curry with a late shot that just kind of put it just out of reach. But still, playing on the road in Philly, this is a team that you figure will be there all season long in the NBA. The Bulls are in a tough stretch right now where they had the Celtics. Before that, they had the Jazz. Then they had the Celtics. 76ers tonight. 76ers again, this time in Chicago. Then Brooklyn, Dallas, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Trailblazers, the Nuggets, the Knicks, the Pacers, all in a row before they close out the month of November with the Rockets and the Magic, but then they also get the Heat. They've got a tough November, but through the first couple games that they've played, it's nice to see them hanging tough. And I mean, they came from behind against Boston, and they held with the 76ers, came back from 18 down, and got all the way to just being 2 down on the road. Props to them. That's tough to do. This is a good-looking team. They're going to be competitive all season. They are going to be worth watching, worth following. The Bulls are back. The Bulls are back for the first time since the Derrick Rose era. We got to celebrate that a few nights ago when they had the Joakim Noah night. For the first time since that era, the Bulls are going to be fun, entertaining, worth watching. It's going to be fantastic to see how it all plays out. And even with Patrick Williams going down for realistically the rest of the regular season, they seem to have settled into a good rotation here. They've got a 9-man rotation right now, and it includes Ayo Dosunmu, the rookie out of Illinois, which is great to see. If for no other reason, he's from Morgan Park. He's from the suburbs of Chicago. He went to Illinois. He's the local kid, done good. And he played 13 minutes tonight, scored just one bucket. He had a 3 points. The moment's not too big for him when he's out there. Billy Donovan had a great quote the other night after the Boston game talking about Ayo, where Ayo is confident. He's not cocky. He's not arrogant. He's not out of line for a rookie. He's just confident. He steps out onto the court and I belong here. I'm going to show you that I belong. I am a professional basketball player. And it's wonderful to see, great depth for the Bulls. He's not going to be cracking the starting lineup. He shouldn't be. He should be staying, coming off the bench, getting his minutes where he can, and being productive. He had one of their 6 threes tonight. He was 1 of 2. The other night in Boston, he was 6 of 6. He was 6 of 6 shooting, including a few threes. You always need depth. Regardless of what sport it is, or regardless of what game you're playing, you always need depth. And it's great to see that he's able to take advantage of the situation. Now, with Patrick Williams, if he comes back, you've also got Kobe White, who's going to be coming back from injury sometime here in the near future. We'll see if that cuts into Dosunmu's minutes. But if nothing else, he's taking advantage of the situation right now. And he's going to make it a very tough decision on Billy Donovan once Kobe White does come back. So Bulls lose tonight, 103-98, but they get another shot at the Sixers. They once again came back from being down on the road. That's new for this team. In years past, if they got down double digits in the second half, you knew it was safe to just move on. That's not the case for this team anymore. They're showing growth. They're showing maturity. They're growing up live during the season. It's great to see. Good for the organization. Good for the city to have something going on at United Center right now. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and then we've got to recap some Bears talk. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
To the Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
everybody. This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Lopan, they didn't even want you. Heck, they didn't even want me. But you know what? Right about now, they have no choice. Looking for the real sports talk? Talk that's for us, the people? Look no further. The Wait a Minute Show, a prime time sports comedy cocktail that tucks you in at night. Join me and Lopan Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 2livestewsradio.com and Saturday 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the waitaminuteshow.com. Sounds like a plan to me. Ain't that right, Lopan?
Indeed.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
Shores of the Puget Sound to the rushing waters of the Columbia River, stretching across the Great Cascades, and on IE Sports Radio lives the Northwest Territory Sports Show, hosted by me, Brad Buckingham. On this show, I cover all the great collegiate and professional sport teams that we have here in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks, Seattle Mariners, Sounders, and even the Seattle Kraken. But I can't forget all of that is good in Oregon either. I got the Trailblazers, the Oregon Ducks, the Beavers, even the Timbers, and much, much more. You can listen to the show every Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern, noon to 1 p.m. Pacific on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. So we talked Bulls in the first segment. They lost tonight to the 76ers. Now we're going to switch over and talk Bears. Speaking of losers, let's go talk about those Bears. The NFL trade deadline was yesterday afternoon, 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock in the East, 1 o'clock out in the West, and I guess that means 2 o'clock in Mountain Time. Not surprisingly, there weren't any moves of consequence, despite all the talk of maybe Odell Beckham Jr. might get traded, or maybe Deshaun Watson gets moved out of Houston, or more locally, maybe Andy Dalton or Akeem Hicks or Allen Robinson gets traded. In the end, nobody moved. Everything stood pat. I threw a question out there in the chat just now. Who was the player you were most surprised wasn't traded in the NFL yesterday? I can't say I'm surprised. For as much as the NFL and media and fans, we would love for the NFL trade deadline to be a bigger event, more like what happens in MLB or NBA. The NFL just doesn't have the big, exciting trade deadline. That's in part because of the salary cap. There are obviously the immediate salary cap implications of, does Team B have the space in its salary cap to acquire the player they're getting from Team A? Is Team A willing to, say, for example, the Broncos trade sending Von Miller to the Rams? The Broncos ate $9 million of Von Miller's $9.7 million contract this season. Is a team willing to do that? But even if they are willing to do that, for example, there were some people saying the Bears should look at trading Khalil Mack, try to get some value on him now while he's still got stuff in the tank. Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune pointed out this morning, had the Bears done that, they would have immediately incurred $22 million in dead money on their salary cap next year. It just makes it so hard to trade anybody that isn't on an expiring deal. And unless you're a quarterback or you're a team like the Rams where you're just willing to throw your draft picks away like they're candy, spoiled candy, I should say, you're not going to get very much in return for a player. So a lot of teams just feel like, well, we may as well hang on to him. It's not worth a 7th round pick. Oh boy. Oh, Mike throws into the chat. First of all, he was surprised that OBJ from Cleveland wasn't traded. I would agree. I was a little surprised by that one. And then he suggests that the Broncos are going to go for Aaron Rodgers next year, and they were cleaning up cap space to get him. I hope so. I'd love to see Aaron Rodgers just basically anywhere not in Green Bay. I'd love to see him. You could put him in Los Angeles or Boston or Miami or Indy, basically anywhere where it's not Green Bay. So I'd be just fine with the Broncos getting Aaron Rodgers next year. That would be great with me. But you don't see a lot of trade deadline moves in the NFL. It's just hard to do. The league wants to do it. They're working on trying to fix some of the mechanisms and make it a little easier for them to do that, for teams to do this. But the salary cap realities of trading a player where you wind up with dead money pushed down to future years as a result of trading a player makes it really hard to do. It's hard for teams to navigate the salary cap as it is. So to then throw the wrinkle of, well, we traded a guy, but now we've got all this money that we're no longer allowed to spend on next year's salary cap, makes it hard. Makes it really, really, really hard. For the Bears, I thought that the most likely candidate was Allen Robinson. They're not using him very much this season. You could say Justin Fields doesn't have the rapport with him. It may be in part because they didn't let him practice with the ones until he was the starter. Idiots. There, I got that off my chest. You could also argue that because Robinson's relationship with the team has deteriorated over the last 2+ seasons, that he's no longer being used the same way in the offense as he has in years past. Bottom line, end of the day, Robinson's on pace for his worst season pretty much ever. He's not even going to hit 600 yards receiving on the year. Mike, tell us how you really feel. That's why I have a microphone. But Robinson's not even pace for 600 receiving yards on the year. I think he has just one touchdown catch. The whole offense as a whole is miserable this year and broken. But it's doubly surprising that Allen Robinson hasn't been able to get on track here this season with Justin Fields at all. And that kind of leads into this game this past weekend against San Francisco. There were some miserable things that happened in the game, but there were some real bright spots. Let's start with the bad. Let's start with the negative. The defense. Woof. Oh boy. Listen to these numbers from the Bears defense. 0 punts forced. 0 takeaways. 0 sacks. 467 yards given up. The only time San Francisco did not score was on its opening drive when the 49ers missed a field goal. You can't have that. You have got to make stops. You can't expect. This is an arena ball. This isn't the Arena Football League, of which I was a big fan, by the way. I'd love to see it come back. But in arena ball, it was just expected. You're going to score every time you have the ball. And it was shocking. Hey, the defense made 2 stops. Great. You won. You can't have that in the NFL. Your defense has to make stops. And that's coming off of course, getting destroyed the week prior against Tampa Bay. And with the division on the line, and more specifically, the game on the line against the Packers 2 weeks ago, the defense folded. Sure, all right, that's Aaron Rodgers. That's Tom Brady. This is Jimmy Garoppolo. No offense to Jimmy G. That's a huge step down in class. You're talking about 2 Hall of Famers and a guy who I think next year will be on the 3rd team of his career. And not because he's a diva and forces his way out of town. The Bears gave up 322 yards through the air, 145 yards rushing. Horrible, horrible performance from the defense. But on the flip side, that was easily the best game we have seen from Justin Fields. I wish the overall numbers looked sexier than they do. His numbers for the game, 19 of 27 throwing. We hadn't seen the accuracy overall. We've seen accurate throws from Justin Fields, and the touchdown he had on Sunday to Jesse James. That ball was exactly where it needed to be. Just past the defender, but still easily within reach for James. We've seen accuracy from Justin Fields in the micro on individual throws where he's just spot on the money. But his numbers overall, his accuracy on the season, he's just under 60% in his overall accuracy. So to see him 19 of 27 throwing the ball, that's over 70%. We got to see finally the accuracy from him. 175 yards throwing. I'd like to see that number bigger. He's still, you want to get over 200, but you'll take it. 6.5 yards per throw. That's a number you can live with, that you want to be shooting for. Yes, he took 4 sacks, and he had the 1 interception. The interception is not his fault. Final play of the game, throwing up a Hail Mary that actually split the defenders and went through Darnell Mooney's hands. Mooney should have caught that. Instead, it gets intercepted by the back defender. But then we've been asking for it, yearning for it, clamoring for it. 103 yards rushing from Fields on 10 carries, including the best example of taking chicken poop and turning it into chicken salad that you'll ever see on his touchdown run. 4th and 1, designed rollout to the right, and then sees there's nothing there, turns around to evade the defenders, comes back, there's nothing but an open field in front of him, and he gallops into the end zone. I about jumped out of my chair on that touchdown run. That's the kind of play we've been waiting for from Justin Fields, and to see it in action was just so awesome and so great. This was easily the best game Justin Fields has played in his career. It sucks that it's a loss and the defense ultimately failed him and the rest of the team, not just Fields. That the defense ultimately failed the team and they couldn't come away with the win. And let's be frank about this. It's still only 22 points. You need to be scoring more than just 22 to win in the NFL. But you can see how the potential is there with Fields. The skills are there. He's becoming more comfortable in the role. He said leading up to the game this week, he feels that the offense is really close. They're ready for a breakout game. I'd love for it to come this Monday in a primetime, nationally televised game against the Steelers. To have that. Get into the chat room real quick. Mike is asking, do I think the Bears played better with Nagy out? And Nagy, of course, he wasn't there on Sunday because of COVID protocol. He is somewhere. He didn't want anybody knowing where he was. That's weird. Nagy was still involved in the game plan. I like Taryn's acronym for Matt Nagy, not actually gaining yards. That's good. That's really good. I'm gonna share that one. Oh, you did not trigger me at all. And yeah, we got to work on that no Cubs, no parody bit. But no, that's good. Not actually gaining yards. I like that. Nagy was still involved with creating the game plan. So I don't know how much Nagy not being there on Sunday really affected things. Probably in the emotion side of it, where Nagy wears his emotions on his sleeves on game day. He goes through the ups and the downs, and players can definitely feed off that. At the same time, Chris Tabor, to me, he did a fine job filling in. Replacement level head coach from Chris Tabor. He didn't make any obvious blunders. He didn't push the envelope too much with anything. He did a fine, serviceable job filling in. I don't know how much Nagy being out changed much of anything, because he was still involved during the week in the creating of the game plan, watching film, breaking things down, helping to figure out how to attack the 49ers. He was still part of all that. So, obviously, anytime you don't have your leader, that's going to affect things for the team as a whole. But I don't know how big an effect it had. I hadn't heard anybody saying anything about it after the game of, oh man, had Coach Nagy been out there, this would have been different and that would have been different. So I don't think it affected things too much. And yes, Mike, I know you're still offering Justin Fields up in our fantasy league. We got to figure out what your asking price is. I know you're hunting for running backs, so we'll talk. We'll talk. I do, though, to be full disclosure here for Taryn, Justin Herbert, his quarterback, is who I'm typically rolling with in our league. So, but you've got an opportunity here going into this game against the Steelers to really show that Fields can take the next step and do it on a big stage, on a national stage. See what you can do against these Steelers. Now, these Steelers, they just went into Cleveland and pulled off an upset. I did not have them beating the Browns. I thought that the Browns were going to win that game. The Steelers, their injury list, they are healthy. They're only missing Eric Ebron, and their kicker are the only guys that really are hurt of note for the Steelers. That's way too much information there. I'm trying to grab some stuff real quick. With the Bears' run game, they're always going to be in games. If they can get more consistency, there, that sounded better, from their passing attack, this is certainly a winnable game on Monday. And I hope that come next week, we are celebrating Justin Fields' arrival on the NFL scene. If we're not, then we're talking about a 4-game losing streak, and that's a whole other mess of problems that we have to dissect and get into there as far as the Bears are concerned. All right, we are going to take one more quick break, and then yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of the greatest Game 7 that has ever been and probably ever will be played. We will talk about that plus a little bit more on the other side of a break. I am Adam Karnick. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Motorsports takes many forms, and there's one show on IE Sports Radio that's ready to cover it all.
I sure hope you're talking about you and I, Daryl, because I know the Extra Mile is the best place to go for everything motorsports related.
Yes, it is. From NASCAR to IndyCar to sports cars to everything in between, IE Sports Radio has everything covered for the fastest sport in the world.
Plus, don't forget all of our random shenanigans along the way.
That's right, Caitlin. So for plenty of motorsports coverage and plenty of Caitlinisms, check out the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio with Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Caitlin Seen, Thursdays at 8 p.m.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And Marcus will be coming up right after us tonight here on IE Sports Radio, so do not go anywhere when we are done tonight. You definitely want to stick around for Marcus. This is Chi-Town Weekly here with you tonight for just a few more minutes. Thank you for sticking around and being with us here tonight, either live on Wednesday or later on in the week if you're listening later on as a podcast. We're of course on Spreaker, but then iHeartRadio and Spotify and lots of other places where podcasts are available. So wherever you are listening, so glad that you are here with us. So the World Series concluded last night. The Atlanta Braves defeated the Houston Astros 7-0 to clinch their first World Series since the mid-90s. Congratulations, Atlanta, on winning the championship. There were two notable ex-Cubs on the roster. Of course, Jock Peterson, he got traded away on the 4th of July to Atlanta this past season. But then Jorge Soler, you might remember him from his days in the Cubs organization. He actually kind of signaled the start of the turnaround. He was one of the first prospects that Jed and Theo called up after a couple of miserable years of tanking and acquiring draft capital and things like that. Soler won the World Series MVP, and he got things started off on the right way last night for the Braves, absolutely tattooing a 3-run homer to left. For those who aren't familiar with the field that Houston plays in, left field is very short. It's not very far from home plate to the wall. But they have a very tall wall there in left. Then a few rows of bleachers, and then behind that is another wall that goes up for the retractable roof, and they have going across that topmost wall, they have a small train on railroad tracks that goes by anytime Houston hits a home run, the train whistles by. Soler hit it onto the railroad tracks. He destroyed that ball last night. Home runs like that, I always enjoy watching the pitcher's reaction. I don't know, it might be the narcissist in me or something, where how does the pitcher react to it? And the Houston pitcher last night gave a fantastic reaction to it. It was the pitcher was, I'm pulling up here, it was Luis Garcia, gave just the best reaction to it. He threw it. It was, you sometimes hear it referred to as a cement mixer slider. It's a slider. That slider's supposed to move from right to left from a right-handed pitcher. Well, a cement mixer is one that spins but doesn't move. It just stays in the middle of the plate. That was a cement mixer slider, and Soler got it. Garcia, as soon as he saw that Soler hit it, He just walked off the mound and headed towards first. Didn't turn his head. Didn't look at anybody. Just, yep, I missed. That's a home run. Shoot. So that was my favorite part of the highlight. So congratulations to Atlanta. But it came, of course, on the anniversary of the greatest Game 7 ever. The Cubs, it was 5 years ago last night, won the World Series. And, of course, all the fun emotions of going through and replaying that game and watching the highlights. I remember my wife that whole day, she never left the kitchen the whole game, didn't watch any of the game. Me, I had such the opposite reaction to most Cubs fans watching Game 7. I was thoroughly enjoying being entertained by just a fantastically well-played, dramatic, theatrical, exciting baseball game from start to finish. And then I got to the rain delay, and then my Cub fandom kicked in, and I retroactively stressed out over everything that had happened through the first 9 innings. The other thing I remember from that day, all the Cubs fans that flocked to Wrigley, either from the city or drove in from out of the city to go to Wrigley, never mind that the game was in Cleveland, Cubs fans just, it became Mecca. This is the place to be. This is where we need to go. If it's going to happen, it needs to be here. And there was a Cubs fan that had left sidewalk chalk out. And Cubs fans were writing messages and notes on the brick wall, the outside of the brick wall of Wrigley, either to current friends and family or past friends and family that weren't able to stick around and to live long enough to see the Cubs win the World Series. That's some of the stuff that's always going to stick with me. It was something that literally no one had ever seen before. None of us had ever seen the Cubs win a World Series. We all got to experience it together for the first time. That might be the only time we ever get to experience that. So, congratulations on the 5-year anniversary on that. We'll have more baseball to talk about probably in a couple of weeks as the Bears go into their bye. But as for tonight, that does it for our show. Thank you to our sponsors, the Southern California Warriors and Background Check International Businesses, for continuing to support not only this show, but every show at IE Sports Radio. Thank you to Larry for all the hard work he does keeping everything going here at the station. Thank you to Tarrant. Thank you to Mike for hanging out in the chat room with us tonight. It was a lot of fun, guys, to see you there. Be sure to stick around for Marcus coming up next. Marcus Los Great. And then also stick around tomorrow. Of course, we've got the Extra Mile and 3 and Out. But rumor has it there may be a new show with a host that if you listen to the Neutral Zone with myself on Tuesday nights, you might recognize the other guy's voice. That'll do it for tonight. Everybody, thank you for continuing to listen to us. I really appreciate it. Be safe, be well. We will talk next week. Have a good one.